All right, everybody, welcome to the Elite Racing League Belly Up Podcast Cup Series. Mark Murphy here in race control. We are set for 37 laps of action today, and right now we're just kind of hanging out, waiting on qualifying, um, waiting on qualifying um, to commence, and so all good there. Uh, so yeah, just kind of hanging out. For whatever reason, it signed me in as a driver this time, so I am not able to see the other people's. Um, Circuit of the Americas, obviously a cool place. Let me turn the broadcast back on so I can hear everybody in the booth.
Who's starting off tonight?
Zach.
Okay. All right, and mics are hot.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Texas, the Circuit of the Americas, or at least the virtual one, for tonight's edition of the Belly Up Sports Cup Series here in the Elite Racing Leagues. I'm Zach Evans, filling in for Gerald Campbell tonight, joined, as you're used to hearing, by David Westergreen. We also have Carlos Acosta here pushing the buttons. Dave's around here somewhere. It's a weird night, y'all, but we're going to treat you to some good road course racing here tonight. David, what do you think we have in store?
I think we've got a classic battle between the elite road course racing greats, the likes of R.C. Anderson, Tyler Fode, Ethan Stanley. Will be battling for a podium, and then we'll see some other exciting action in the mid-pack and guys fighting for top tens, points finishes, and battling our way towards the playoffs here with this being race 3. I'm not as excited for this one as I am for other ones, but I'm also known as the road course hater. With Gerald out, Zach, your first time in the booth. You ready for tonight? And what do you expect to see? Because we know you've been watching all these Elite Cup Series races.
Well, watching this season, but especially announcing last season, I think the big question mark, you talk about all those guys that we are used to seeing up front here in Elite on the road courses, but right now somebody's got to beat Ethan Stanley. He swept the road course races in the Cup Series last season. He won at Sonoma back in 2023A. So right now it's 3 in a row for him. Can he make it 4, or is somebody, maybe, like you mentioned, R.C. Anderson, Tyler Fode, Ethan Burrell, Ryan Gable, can one of those guys stop the streak?
And, Ethan Stanley is going to be one of those guys to look out for in those points. He's one of the championship 4 from last season, where he very nearly got a trophy, ended up, I think, wrecked out with like 5 laps to go last year. So, Ethan's one of those guys who is very quick on these road courses, very quick on the other tracks as well, but these are really his bread and butter. He's very much one of those kind of sports car driver type guys where this new car is right in his wheelhouse. And, with 5 years and these guys are going to be, climbing the hill, driving through the S's. I think this is like a 2.5 mile course. He's got a lot of turns to be perfect, to not make mistakes, and the elite road course drivers, the sports car drivers, those guys tend to not make a whole lot of mistakes, and that's what's making him so good at these road course tracks.
I'll tell you, David, you actually shorted it by about a mile. Here
Oh my
Circuit
gosh.
I know, it's forever. 20 turns, 3.427 miles, the distance around the Grand Prix layout here at Circuit of the Americas. Yeah, we're talking math. We're talking math as we are watching Ethan Burrell come across the line and hit the clock. You'll start seeing those qualifying times filter in on the left-hand side. Drivers have 10 minutes to log qualifying laps as we're, like I say, watching Ethan Burrell uphill, This left-hander's so tricky. Sharp turn after the uphill. And you got to snake your way through the S's, trying to carry as much speed as you can without overstepping. It's kind of a balancing act right through here, especially when you're dealing with traffic. Nice flowy section, but eventually it kind of tightens up a little bit as you start to head back up the hill. Lots of elevation changes here at Circuit of the Americas. We'll look here, one more right as you start seeing that elevation back to the left. That's turn 9. Here's turn 10. Run down the hill to a hard braking zone for turn 11. And this sets up pretty much the longest straight on the circuit, as now we have switched over to Ethan Stanley's perspective. He's on this long straightaway that I was just talking about. It's a long straightaway to skip, and here now you see him hard braking for turn 12. And here's a really tricky part of the track, because you have a lot of double apex corners, and you're going to the right, and then you're going back to the left. You're speeding up, you're slowing down, you're constantly kind of tap dancing with the car through this kind of stadium section of the racetrack. Here again, there's the double left, which takes you down towards 16, 17, 18. This is almost like a triple apex situation you've got going on here. The car sometimes wants to swing out wide here, but you're trying to carry as much speed as you can and hug the right side to give yourself the best entry here for turn 19. And then you got to be careful right here. You don't want to run wide and cancel your qualifying lap. Ethan's getting all the track he can before he turns left. Turn 20, running back towards the start-finish line. That's a lap around Circuit of the Americas.
He definitely went off track too. He got a 0x at some point. That lap did not register for Ethan Stanley, and that's another challenge that these guys are going to have to face. I think the rest of this qualifying session is, setting a lap time, on the edge as fast as you possibly can, but you also have to keep in mind those track limits. It's got the F1 style track limits. We won't be penalizing these guys for that, but they'll be racking up some serious incident point numbers in this one. I've seen them up over 100 in terms of, and not even guys wrecking, just in terms of going off track just a little bit and getting that incident point and having to, I don't think they get slowdowns, but it racks up those incident points really quickly, and it'll kill your qualifying lap if you're not careful.
So it depends on where you go off. Obviously, if you shortcut a corner, you're going to get a slowdown. And there are a couple of places if you run wide. Oh, well, that's a real big slowdown. If you hit the tire barrier, the tire barrier slows you down to a complete stop, as we just saw with Ryan Gable in the 01 Hux machine there. But there are a couple of places. But like you say, the bigger thing is you're just going to see a lot of crazy, we will on our end, incident point numbers. Back in 2021A, if I remember correct, 2021B, excuse me, was the last time the Elite Cup Series visited Circuit of the Americas. And I always joke about that race in particular because there are a couple of guys who ran all the laps and literally never registered a lap time because they got picked up at least 10X in every single lap out of the 37.
I'm 90% sure I was one of those guys in that race. I probably was. I know I raced in that race, and it was bad.
Your fastest lap was a 2:23.467 that day.
That means I registered a lap time. All right, we weren't one of the ones who never did.
Registered a lap time. The lucky souls who did not record a lap that day were Dallas Myhan, Jeff Green, and Jared Rexing.
Several elite veterans, none of whom are here tonight. So
less than a minute.
That's awesome.
I did finish ahead of you that day, though, David. Not bragging. Not bragging.
Well, I would never claim to be good at a road course. So
I was 17th. You were 27th, and Gerald Campbell, who is normally doing this part, was 31st.
Aha, there we go. See, beat Gerald. Ethan Stanley's first qualifying lap out of the gate was a 10th off his practice time, which was also first. He'll be leading, and he's leading by a Max Verstappen type amount, I think, going into this one. 6/10 over Ryan Gable, that's a pretty substantial margin, and Ethan Stanley, already maybe the favorite for this race. Going to be starting out front. RC Anderson unable to set a lap time. so far, right? He's got a little bit more time, but he's running out here, and yeah, there it goes. So R.C. Anderson will be coming from the back, and that puts him at a major disadvantage to stopping pole sitter Ethan Stanley.
So there you have it. As the qualifying session comes to a close, we'll take a look now at our starting grid. Starting on the pole, the number 92 of Ethan Stanley. Alongside him, Ryan Gable, number 01. Gavin Hibbs, Ethan Burrell make up row 2. William White lining up 5th. Chad Frankenfield 6th. Corey Abbott will start 7th. Scott Crump lining up 8th. Tyler Fody in 9th. Matthew Weeks rounding out the top 10. And in row 6, Nick Indelicato and a Leighton Norgard.
All right, guys. In row number 7 will be Tate Lytle.
Good luck. Just a reminder, end of 19 is the playoff point.
Ty McIntosh.
There are yellows tonight if the track is blocked and we have multiple cars stopped on track.
Seth Rawls. Row 10 is Justin Wadsworth and Ryan Schold. Row 11 is Vincent Isabella and Jonathan Cutlip. Row 12, Colin Culpa and Justin Vandermarl.
So now we look at row 13. You have Josh Clark and Chris Wright. That's Carlos Acosta. We'll talk about that. Brent Jones, 27th. Michael Goodman, 28th. Nick Massey, 29th. Mark Rebelos in 30th. R.C. Enerson, 31st. Like you mentioned, not being able to log that lap. Garrison Hogan, 32nd. Of course, everybody from here on back didn't log a lap. It's unfortunately mixing in a couple of people signed in as drivers with the people who are actually racing. Mark Murphy not racing. He's race control. Carlos Acosta hoped to race tonight, but Dave Huckleberry having some technical issues. Carlos Acosta gracefully stepping in for production duties. He will not start 34th. He's the one drawing on the screen right now. Josh Adams will effectively start 33rd as we just basically move up everybody behind those two guys who happen to line up beside each other. And Andrew Hardcastle will start 34th.
After that, rounding out the field here, Dusty Dewar will start technically 35th. Michael Hosack, 36th. Johnny Thomas, 37th. He and I love road courses about the same. Robert Hills, 38th. Josh Robin, 39th.
Just after you wait till you get off that
40th.
final corner
Mike
and
Canadle, 41st.
the first couple of rows are set, then you can
42nd.
accelerate.
Rucker, 43rd.
Unless the green comes out, of course.
You get to start the race due to the other two being removed from the server. Worth noting, Corey Abbott starting 7th. Drop connection. He will not start this race on time.
Man, that's a tough break for Corey. Good qualifying run for him. Hopefully he'll be able to join in a reasonable amount of time and not lose too much track position here. But even if he were to join at this time, he'd obviously have to start from pit road. As you can see, the abbreviated pace lap here at Circuit of the Americas has commenced.
All right, before we get her started
Look at
here,
points.
yeah, let's take a look at the point standings. This is just one result, so it's your best result so far in Elite. There's a drop week, so if you have a bad result, you drop that result, whichever one is worse.
Well,
right now,
catch
two
up
races,
here.
these are your
Good, great.
points. And yeah, so I think this doesn't tell us too much. Once we get a third result in, I think on these point standings, we'll see a lot
so
more
far
of who's the true contenders. But right now, Matthew Weeks is the points leader.
Stop whining.
So here we go. We see the field making its way through these final few corners. Eventually that pace car will duck to the left. There it goes. Ethan
Time to
Stanley,
die.
Ryan Gable getting ready to lead the field to the green flag here at Circuit of the Americas.
What the fuck?
And we are
Green flag,
underway.
green flag.
Is out. Ethan Stanley getting a
never
good
mind.
jump as now the field will fan out and make
Explain
its
to me,
way up the hill
Andretti.
towards turn number 1.
Ooh,
Oh,
Stanley
lined up.
I
overcooked it.
need that from
Stanley
30th
overcooks
on back.
turn 1, pushes Gable wide. Gavin Hibbs is going to take the lead going
Why?
down the S's here. Stanley's so quick, though. He already is back to the back bumper of Hibbs. And, you know, I'm in the Lake Norman
Golly,
chat. I
RC,
race
you
with
were in
them
no
on
hurry.
Sundays, and Ethan Stanley was talking about how the tires, when cold, do not
Please just let
drive
me
very
live.
well. He was not a big fan of how it drives when those tires are cold, and very clearly losing the lead on that first corner. I think, you know, those tires a little bit cold, overcooked that first corner, and that's, you know, it's going to cost him track position on this first lap, but he's already going back after Gavin Hibbs.
Already You know Ethan Stanley wants to get out front, stay out front. He's been the dominator of these road course races. And there he goes. Oh, we got trouble.
Hibbs around. Hibbs cut across Burrell's nose,
my fault.
and I think he's going to have to wait. The whole field is streaming through.
I mean, I turned down anymore. I'm getting smoked by you, so I had to do the smoking.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I don't know.
The second horseshoe corner.
Whatever car's in front of me and behind Ty has disappeared.
Isabella and Gavin Hibbs. Hibbs from third.
You can't just rejoin the track,
look at
idiot.
That first one for... Is this Josh Adams?
This is Josh Adams going around.
There's a 95 car
stay
sitting
off
there.
the wall.
Very easy.
Can't just kill the guy either.
That corner, that car gets real loose.
Yeah, there's this pedal, in the middle
so here
called
we go.
the brake.
Hibbs goes wide here. He's trying to get underneath, but
yeah, Hibbs,
Burrell
I'm
is
sorry
there,
about that,
and
man.
he has Chad to
I was
the
getting
inside.
dove.
Burrell can't go any more to the left.
I tried to fit in the middle the best way I could.
As we stream through, Scholes comes,
Yeah. Just kind of ran out of room there, and then Isabella able to get back, pointed the right direction, but definitely a rough start to the evening for those two drivers.
3 and 4 is a racing.
Yeah, not the way you want to start things, but Hibbs and Isabella are already working their way back towards the front. They've already picked up a spot or two. No, I think those guys are a little bit faster than where they're stuck running right now. Certainly their qualifying time didn't that much. But
we also had a late in Norfolk having a disconnecting issue.
Those, I think that's Mountain Man. But, oh, man, there's a big wreck on the front straightaway. Hogan, Isabella got removed from the server.
That scared the shit out of me.
We got Hogan's around on the front straightaway. Michael Goodman's got into this.
Harrison, no apology or anything?
Well, let's see what happens.
I love you.
Here.
Very adventurous first 2 laps.
So that's a... Okay,
sorry that happened. I didn't mean to get into it.
Just kind of...
Oh, you ran me off track one time.
Oh no, we piled up here, but it looks like...
I don't know about the running off track, but I did dump your ass.
Yeah.
I really apologize about that.
Just disconnected. He might have run into some trouble.
That one I didn't mean. If I did mean it, it would have been a lot worse.
No.
Why did Vince get removed? Did he say something?
And right there's where Isabella gets...
If he got kicked for saying, of course, and something's wrong here.
So... An update on the running order. Chad Frankenfield has taken second away from
fucking moon ahead of you.
Gable.
Welcome to the rocket launch.
Tyler Fode's back in 5th. Then it's Nicky
Delicato
sitting in 6th. Then it'll be William White, Tate Lytle, Scott Crump, and points leader Matthew Weeks.
Yeah, I got right to this bumper and they removed them, so it scared the hell out of me.
And the battle's for second. Stanley's already a full second
ahead of that battle. Yeah, we can't be removing guys for saying shocker. Nobody got cut that. Nothing happened there that was out of line.
Looks like they're trying to go side by side here, but Chad's held off
2 races in a row
early on in this dogfight for second place.
Right now we are looking at the 43 car of William White running in the 7th position. Now we take a look at your leader, Ethan Stanley. It looks like...
Take it left here, Rucker.
Yeah. Ryan Gable and Chad Frankenfield are doing a nice little battle for second here.
Mark, can you explain why he was kicked?
Absolutely. Here comes Gable. He's going to shoot down the inside, going up the hill into turn 1. Big cutback corner, horseshoe corner.
Questioning why that was a racing incident.
And he will take second away from Chad Frankenfield, and then they drive through this higher speed.
All right, please message him right now.
Or Gable hopes to pull away from Frankenfield.
You're fired. My fault. I was about to stop. I know you were stopping.
Fortner, it looks like. Going into
take it left, RC.
What's that turn? 8, 10? He's going to get hit by Jesse Racimus. And Jordan Owen straightens out the 35 car. Ty ought to say thank you.
Yeah, I think that was 11, but you have 5% shot. Oh, Ryan going way wide there in the 01.
Actually, I did not kick him.
Here they go.
User.
Through, that is turn 11.
I don't know what happened, but I didn't kick him.
And back onto throttle.
All right, just message him then, if that's the case.
How important that corner is, because the amount of speed you're able to carry
give him points for wherever he was running, I guess.
Turn 11 dictates how much speed you carry down this ridiculously long straightaway before you finally get to turn 12. Oh, and now we see
another one.
Yep, that is
Harrison Talon.
Harrison Talon.
It's okay.
I keep wanting to say that's Justin Vanderbilt. I have not adjusted to that roster change for this season yet.
It's like 175 miles an hour for guys going down into that big left-hander at the end of the long straightaway.
My bad.
Is that Harrison Reckon again, or is that just a replay?
I think
that's a replay. I just had it on the wrong camera. I apologize.
I about crashed trying not to ass back here.
Oh, you hit the bump.
Hit the turtle.
Early on.
Yeah, you gotta watch out for those curbs. Especially, you'll see some of those where they have the little, what Carlos called the turtle, what we affectionately call the turtle. Those little raised yellow curbs that right at the apex of the corner can sometimes really upset these cars. And it looks like that's what happened there. What Carlos.
Yep, for sure. And road course. They're really, Harrison's just trying to go to the Zach Evans school of rocketry, but he didn't take that with enough speed to really get in the air. So.
Stanley overcooked it.
Stanley not passing out lessons for that.
Yeah, I don't know. I was there.
Not for free, at least. If you're good at something, don't do it for free.
He's all. He's really good at bump drafting. We saw him finish second in the Daytona 500. He's trying it down here on the front straightaway of COTA, but
whatever car's in front of me and behind Ty has
going up into that Gavin Hibbs short shoot. And Chris Wright.
You can't just rejoin the track.
Look at that compared to where they usually feel. You see Massey pulling over for Gavin Hibbs, who qualified in the top 3. He got spun out in that
Josh
first.
Adams going around.
Cutback corner. Massey definitely not up to the same speed level that he typically is.
There's a pedal, in the middle.
So here we
called
go.
The brake.
Now we've got
double
box here. He's trying to get underneath, but of course,
I'm sorry about that, man. I was getting
can't go anymore.
I tried to fit in the
right
middle
around the
the best way I
cusp
could.
of the top 10. You've got Matthew Weeks in the 11.
And as they say that, we switch. But
I got dizzy for a second, but yes. So you're. Now Carlos is just messing with me. Carlos is tormenting me. It is too early for this. Matthew Weeks is in the 11. Scott Crump is in the 90. He's running 9th. That 26 car belongs to Justin Fortner. He's the one trying to find a way around that red number 11. And then somewhere patiently lurking behind that is the 16 of Jordan Owens.
Good showing for Jordan Owens early on in this one, and obviously a long way to go, right? 37 laps. These guys are going to have to pit for fuel, potentially tires. I think we could see some guys, leave the tires old because apparently the tires warm, and kind of similar to how the real Cup car goes these days, the tires don't really wear. So, and it helps you to have warm tires. The early portion of the run, when you're warming your tires up, we noticed those first 2 laps very treacherous. Now that they've settled in, a lot less incidents. These guys feeling a lot more comfortable in their cars.
That was the winning strategy in both of our road course races in the Cup Series last season. You saw some people try to change the tires and make that work at Watkins Glen. It did not. Ethan Stanley won without changing tires. In Montreal, nobody really even... I think maybe 1 or 2 people tried, but for the most part, everybody accepted.
I went back and looked at
the way to go is to take as little fuel as possible.
And somehow my hand clicked it.
Run the fuel as far as you can on the first run. Take as little fuel as possible on the second run, and call it a day. No tires.
William White battling with Tate Lytle on the bottom of your screen. Oh, Chris Wright's around.
We'll have to see what happened there. That would have been. In that one battle we had been looking at in our double box.
Mm-hmm. Nick Massey, R.C. Anderson's right here as well. Let's take a look. I think Chris is going to overcook it just a little
message
bit.
Him and figure out what position he was in.
RC's going to get some damage.
Just tell him his mistake. I'll talk to him too.
I
think
Chris
he was first with about 40 laps
about as much as I do. He's very much an oval type of guy.
As now we go on board for the replay. And here's the really fun part if you're one of those other guys coming around the corner, because that elevation change, right? You're barely able to see around the corner as it is. And then, oh, hey, there's the nose of a car. That's not supposed to be there.
R.C. Anderson's a very capable driver. We know this from many past Elite Series races. Not to mention, forays into the Indy 500 and other races, but RC not able to see it dodge going up a hill like that. Battle here for third as well. Chad Frankenfield trying to hold off Ethan Burrell for that final podium position.
That is happening in the lower portion of your screen. You see Chad Frankenfield into 15. Ethan Burrell in the 37 as the start lap 6 here, going by the start-finish line.
Stanley has just busted away from everybody, too. He's 2.5 seconds up on Gable.
Yeah, this is very similar to what we saw in the road course races 1 season ago. Ethan Stanley really has the road course program figured out, especially in the Cup Series. He was one we saw in contention for the win at Zandvoort in the Grand National Series last week. Unfortunately for Ethan, RC Enerson picked up the win in that one. Unfortunately for RC, he has a much more difficult go of it tonight after failing to log a lap in qualifying. He's currently running about 23rd.
Yeah. So, and now he's got some front nose damage as well. Or I guess that was the old what's that G3 car right there? Robert Hill.
So there's Robert Hill, who another driver who had a little bit of an adventure to start the night, had some issues showing up with the right car number for the race. If you don't show up with the right car number, you get a paddling. You can't have your pudding if you don't eat your meat, etc. So impromptu, hasty paint job on the number 63. Unfortunately, Robert did have the presence of mind as we almost watch him completely wipe out in the hairpin to get his sponsor on the hood of this car, even if he spray painted 63 on both doors and spray painted the 6 backwards on one door. That must be that Canadian education.
Oh, man. This is the best car out here.
God bless him for putting in the effort to make sure he got to turn laps tonight, especially, Robert. You keep saying it's different guys like
there he goes.
You do. And that's yep.
Oh no.
Yep, that's about how much Robert likes road courses. He could have easily decided, you know what, it isn't worth the headache. Yep. Here he is.
He right in front of Kachow. Corey Abbott did get back on the racetrack. He is 1 lap down in 40th place. That's P7 in qualifying is Corey Abbott, and just feel bad for Lightning McQueen there in the 73 car, man. He really could have been contending for a top 10 finish and I had tonight, to bin it. But unfortunately, the internet gremlins are going to prevent that from happening.
There you see Corey Abbott making his way down towards turn number 12.
Back up front, Tyler Fode's got a lot of pressure on the rear bumper from Nick Indelicato. And Jordan Owens has bypassed Justin Fortner for 11th position on the grid. Those battles you can see on the bottom and top of your screen respectively. I do want to go. I mentioned I loved how the 63 car looks, but I think the true best car on the grid tonight is the 5 of Jonathan Cutlip. And Cutlip's usually up at the front on those oval tracks, but he's running 16th right now. Sitting back, looking good, keeping that 5 car clean. It's really nice. Got a nice sheen to it. Got a good Coca-Cola sponsorship. Jonathan always paints his own cars. He paints a number of cars in the field, and on his cars always look spectacular. So always shouting out Jonathan Cutlip for those paint schemes and designs.
You live, Chris?
It's funny. There are a lot of guys that we see compete in these races that are also really good and really talented.
I thought of you running back here with me. Made you want to do that, huh?
Race cars. You mentioned Jonathan Cutlip. He's definitely one of the best here in Elite.
I'd already wrecked twice. She wasn't driving too good after the first wreck.
He paints the 95, 35, 10 car,
10-4,
and also his own 25 car does Seth Rawls. But Shifty Sports, another one of those painters that does a really good job on getting cars out for guys.
Saw a really tight battle there. Now we're on board with Ethan Burrell, trying to chase down Chad Frankenfield for that second spot. or third spot rather.
Ryan Gable's driven away from this duo as well. He's up 3 seconds up the road and into the S's right now, so you can see him kind of driving away in the horizon there as Burrell continues to hunt Chad Frankenfield down. And I'm sure Ethan wants to get by Chad, but this is a very good run for this 37 car and for Do Good Motorsports after Ethan moving over there from Pro Edge for I think maybe the biggest free agent acquisition maybe in Elite history.
In the top portion of the screen, we can see R.C. Enerson still on the fight, trying to work his way through the field. He's up to 21st. He wants to change that right here, try to move into 20th.
And we went back to Ethan. RC did get by Colin Culpa. Next on his hit list will be Justin Vandermarl. And then Ty McIntosh right there ahead as well.
Oh! Had one go off just a little bit in the S's, kept it under control. I believe that was indeed Justin Fortner. Now we go back to that battle with R.C. Enerson. You can see him sizing up Justin Vandermarl as they run down towards turn 12. He's going to have the inside position here as long as he doesn't lock up the brakes.
He outbraked Vandermarl by a pretty significant margin there.
That's the difference between R.C. Enerson and the average NASCAR racer on a road course right there. You saw it, right? That's a visual representation of why the road course there's the road course guys, and then there's everybody else. And that's no disrespect to Justin Vandermarl. Let's remember, it is a stock car league. A lot of these guys, some of the best you'll find on oval, but some of them, myself included, just trying to keep it on the blacktop when we go road course racing. And that's the difference right there.
You and me both, buddy. Yeah, and we see, you can see it too in our margins here on the Belly Up Cup Series pylon here to the left. Nick Indelicato sitting in P6, 9 seconds off of Ethan Stanley. The difference between Indelicato in 6th and Stanley the leader, that's the difference between 6th and 7th between Indelicato and Tate Lytle.
And that's kind of how these races play out. Obviously, there are mistakes that happen, miscues, and that opens up some of these gaps as well. But especially at a track this long, at nearly 3.5 miles here at Circuit of the Americas, you're turning 2 minute and 15-second laps. The disparity in the fast laps is just so significant. Even right now, you've got guys like Ethan Stanley, Ryan Gable are still running into 2:14s. Really, pretty much everybody in the top 5 or 6 are still in that 2-minute 14-second range. And then even just a guy running 10th or 11th is 2 seconds slower right now.
Mm-hmm. And that's a margin that will build up pretty consistently through the course of the race and create, I think, a fairly wide margin of victory for Stanley, presuming he doesn't do something like speed on pit road or wipe it out. And then, it'll create big gaps between the rest of them. But we do see a lot of guys still able to keep it close. Obviously, we've got our eye on Jordan Owens and Justin Fortner right now. Back up front, it's also Chad Frankenfield and Ethan Burrell still just kind of nose to tail. Tate Lytle and William White have not been able to separate either, and then Scott Crump and Matthew Weeks have not been able to separate. So you can see little packs forming and guys drafting off each other, working off of the car in front, trying not to lead. I think there's something to that to try to keep the car on the track. If you have somebody to follow, set an example for you, you can make it through this track a little bit quicker and a little bit safer without going off course, and I think that's what everybody's trying to prevent right now, and before pit stops.
And one thing you'll see with that battle with Chad Frankenfield and Ethan Burrell is Tyler Fode starting to creep into the picture, and so too is Nick Indelicato. We'll see what they run this time by. If Fode gave up a little bit of time that particular lap, but definitely the gap has closed over the last little bit as that we see a replay here.
Hardcastle missed turn 1 by a pretty wide margin, gave up the spot to a Leighton Norgard. Norgard, another car, had some internet troubles. And that That 22 car was painted very nicely. Thought that was a really good paint scheme.
So now we watch along here.
This 4-car battle for third place is really starting to heat up. They're all within a second of each other, very close. Josh Adams gracefully gotten into the battle for first there.
Sometimes technology is unfriendly.
Tyler Fode has, you mentioned, he has caught Ethan Burrell. He's definitely putting down better laps than Burrell is right now. And, that's resulting in that 40 car starting to kind of climb back forward. And I wonder if Fode hasn't been saving the tires a little bit. And, a lot of these guys, they understand the Ethan Stanley conundrum, right? They're like, well, I'm kind of hoping to finish third in this one. So this group of four right here, they know, this is a battle for third at the end of the race. Oh, Josh Adams is around again.
He has removed himself from the hypothetical battle for first there as we saw him around. We'll see. This is a separate deal here. This is Gavin Hibbs. Run down to turn 12?
Excuse me, that was a misclick. That's just him passing a vehicle.
Oh, okay.
That works. Still, though.
That's much less exciting, but better for Gavin.
Who is back up to 16th.
This is
actually
Josh
15th.
Adams going around. Yes.
Josh is having one of the days that I like to have on road courses where you are mostly not driving on the track. And I like to have it. I don't like that, but those are the days you have.
Corey, there's one thing that's nice about COTA when you're having one of those.
Man, Massey! No. Hey, locked him up, and Massey's off down the front, or I guess it's the back straightaway.
Yeah, and it's funny. I was just about to say the nice thing about COTA is if you're going to have those moments, you have literal airport runways to gather it up before you hit something hard. Mm-hmm. If you miss a corner if you miss turn 1 by that much at a place like Sonoma, your race is over. But here at Circuit of the Americas, it's fine.
Absolutely right. As long as you don't hit one of those turtles and send your car catapulting into the tires.
That's right. That's about the worst you can do.
Ethan, what the fuck are you doing up here?
Off track.
Battle also for 11th, by the way. Jesse Racimus did take over around Jordan Owens. Seth Rawls has gotten around Owens. Gavin Hibbs is next on Owens. And Delicato's going after Tyler Fode for 5th. A lot of battles on track. A lot of good action.
Yeah, don't let Ethan Stanley's significant lead fool you. There's a lot of great racing going on through this field. Doing our best to show it all to you here on the Elite Racing Network. As we take a look, there's again.
Delicato did get 5th from Fode.
Oh,
and here comes Burrell. Frankenfield got a little bit squirrely coming out of one of those corners, and it's in that cutback section where the car's just so light. You're cutting right, left, right.
Thank you.
Chad ends up making a slight mistake, and it cost him third place.
Freaking hate that corner.
Yeah, that was going through 13 and 14, where you saw the car kind of step out on Chad Frankenfield, and that's going to cost him the 3rd spot for now. And he's under a lot of pressure here as they go towards 19 and 20 from Nick and Delicato.
Burrell's pulling away a little bit. Wonder if Chad was holding him up ever so slightly. But then you'll look and want to make sure, is Ethan Burrell able to hang on without making any mistakes when he's not the following car, when he could be the lead car and break it at his own pace? Is that going to be something that causes a mistake from that 37? Ethan, very capable driver. I tend to doubt that he'll wad it up, but it's certainly possible at this place, man. 20 corners, very difficult to get every single one right every single lap.
Definitely takes a lot of finesse, a lot of focus over the course of a 37-lap race here to not make any mistakes. Nick and Delicato got really close to that turtle there, working through the S's, but keeps it under control.
I did some math for you, Zach. 740 turns in this 37-lapper.
I was specifically told there would be no math.
As we look back, Gavin Hibbs has caught Jordan Owens for 14th Seth Rawls and Jesse Racimus are kind of nose to tail also for that 12th position. And Hibbs has had a really nice comeback. Right? I mean, we saw the issue with Isabella. But Hibbs was behind him and has been able to climb from in the mid-30s all the way up to 16th. So a really good run early for Gavin Hibbs. He's even ahead of where R.C. Anderson is at this point. Anderson's up to 18th place after starting 31st.
We watch this battle into top 5 work its way around.
Delicato loose.
Robert Hill Nick and Delicato got a little upset. I think it just got some wheel spin over on the outside curbing there after the exit of turn 12.
Thanks, John.
And that's going to turn over that spot to Tyler Fode.
Who among us hasn't spun it off the exit of one, or spun the tires off the exit of one of these corners? But old Fode is now trying to pull away from Nick and Delicato, who had gotten around him, and this has opened up a little bit of a gap for Chad Frankenfield to kind of feel out that 15 car. Obviously, we saw that it was a little bit squirrely, a little bit treacherous a few laps ago. Now the 10 car a little bit squirrely, and Fode's been pretty rock solid, and Burrell obviously now with a second advantage over Chad Frankenfield. He's been very, very solid and able to take advantage of those squirrely moments for the two Fords.
We see the ticker has switched over to the countdown. 25 laps to go. Working lap 13 here in the Pit Pass NASCAR 125.
For those of you curious, that's 500 more corners for these guys. A lot of activities going on. I think all these S's count as a corner though, so you can kind of clip them off pretty quickly.
Ooh.
So, Zach, I got a question for you. Is how do you feel to watch the 2001 Mark Martin car pace around up at the front of a road course?
I love the look of this Ethan Stanley car. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but you're right. 100% gives off those.
Oh, it's intentional.
It is intentional. Okay, The 2001 Mark Martin vibes. Of course, anyone who's ever had the misfortune of interacting with me knows what a huge Mark Martin fan I am. Have done several Mark Martin throwbacks on iRacing myself.
This, I wanted to take a second and let's talk about Ethan Stanley's paint scheme, and Tyler Fode and Chad Frankenfield are swapping third place or fourth place back and forth up here on the top of your screen. So Frankenfield had to check, otherwise he was going to spin Fode out, and in doing so, I think that's going to give over fourth place to that 40 car, but Chad drives it back in underneath the 40. Hop the curb. They're side by side.
These guys are not driving like we still have however many corners left. This is 25 to go, looking more like 5 to go, looking more like that last lap battle a couple of years ago with the Dinger and Chastain, as we watch these guys go at it for 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Delicato braking way later than both of the guys in front of him, but you can see how much he gives up off of corner exit by braking so much later, and I think maybe that's a little bit of the difference between that and what we saw from R.C. Anderson before, where R.C. was able to get in way deeper into these corners, but he's also able to carry that speed through, and Delicato's kind of sacrificing speed on corner exit right now to get in deeper. I say that like I can do it. I cannot do that. I'm not speaking from example or anything. But
no.
I've watched enough racing to know. I watch the good guys do it. These guys show me how to do it.
And those who can't announce.
Exactly. Johnny Thomas about to go a lap down. He yields over to Ethan Stanley. Johnny is another one of the guys who you'll see him at the front on the ovals, but he and I have a similar taste of road courses. In that we don't like
Johnny Thomas.
Oh,
that was me not trying to show shade at him. That is a lot of people going off track constantly, setting the scroll thingy for all the names I choose to quickly select the replay to move up and down rapidly. So when I tried to show the replay of Schultz, it showed Johnny Thomas being lapped. So sorry, Johnny, wasn't trying to drop the shade on you.
Okay. At least we got Johnny in there, right? I mean, he's a guy not going to be running up at the front of these road courses. Scholl did get into, boy, who was that he got into? Vandermarl, I think, the 80 car. It's a name we haven't called.
I believe that is what happened there.
Dusty Dewar going off track. Haven't called the 32's name yet. We did lose Josh Adams, by the way. The number one has disconnected from the server. He will finish 38th. We also lost Chris Wright.
Looking at the
Harrison Townsend as well.
Casey Hatch as well. Here comes Delicato.
Yeah, and there's Johnny Thomas on pit road. Is this for service or is this the white flag? Is this the towel from the corner man?
Is he taking fuel only?
Yes, the strategy Zach had noted that you want to employ in this car is fuel only. The tires do not wear. Even with the track temp up at 110 right now in middle of Texas, cold tires are just too slow.
Yeah, he's been there a long time, though.
Yeah.
This might be a little more
50
service
seconds.
than fuel. Yeah, I think Johnny is... It is the white flag from Johnny Thomas.
Oh. Like gone out of him.
Gavin Hibbs has bypassed teammate Seth Rawls and Jordan Owens. He is now up to 13th on a pretty remarkable comeback drive. If he's able to get back into the top 10, I think that'd be a pretty strong result for Gavin Hibbs in that 95 car.
Yeah, you'd have to consider that a success after how the night started for Gavin Hibbs. Definitely having to work really hard for this one, but as you can see, he's setting up for the pass on Jesse Racimus, heading down. Oh no, lockout! Oh, barely avoids another calamity there, but keeps it off of Jesse Racimus, keeps it under control, and he'll just have to try that again. As now we look at this battle between Nick and Delicato and Chad Frankenfield for fifth.
They are beating the back bumper off each other. Josh Robin got out of the way.
Yep, I was about to say Josh Robin. A little sideways there. Now they're side by side.
Frankenfield has the preferred line, but Delicato's going to cross him over, exiting 19. 10 cars.
What a move.
And they're going to stay side by side through 20. And Delicato's got that inside line. But Chad's just hanging there enough to pester him as they head back up the hill.
This battling has enabled Tyler Fody to get gone. He's 2 seconds up the road now from this group, and Frankenfield blinks out. Coming up the hill, that does enable Delicato to clear Chad Frankenfield and move Chad back to 6th out of the top 5. Hibbs will now take a run at Racimus going up that same hill. Looks like he's going to go to the top and try to cut him over, or cross him over and cut underneath the 70 car going into the S's, but 95 will have to stay patient. Racimus got through there pretty well.
Yeah, that's a really tough... If you can get it on court... I say that. I was going to say it's really tough.
Wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Where are they at? Oh, there they are. They've bounced off each other.
That's brave. But
pretty courteous from Jesse. I think you probably are vindicated to run your lane there and enjoy knocking the other car into the tire barriers.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say it's really hard to make side-by-side work through the S's. I think Racimus might have caught one of those turtles and then backed out of it. But it's tough position to be in coming out.
I did not see you until you were in my door.
I
thought you were like off in the grass.
Weeks are all within a second of each other here. I guess that's not Weeks, that's Robin. So Crump is pulled away from Weeks finally. Oh, is that a Leighton Norgard?
It was indeed a Leighton Norgard just in front of Ethan Burrell.
Norgard got it righted pretty quickly there.
We'll take another look at it here. Just
Thank you, Jenny.
Too much beans.
Oh, you betcha.
An excessive amount of beans.
Look at that, though. Really quick recovery. Not a whole lot of time spent backwards for that 33.
William White, one of our...
Here he comes.
He's coming to pit road as soon as I mention his name. Always nice to see William White having a good run. One of our drivers competing in the wee hours of the morning over in England.
Henderson pit road.
Yeah, RC also down pit road, so those Toyotas heading down early. And, we've noted the typical strategy, don't change tires. White going to change tires anyway. And we'll see if that cost him, right? He was running in 8th behind Lytle. So
Anderson as well.
If tire.
Oh no, Colin!
Hopefully, no one's entering pit road behind the 06. To be all right.
What did the Blue Jays do to you?
I know. It's Bo Bichette doing that too. Got a pretty good player. One error.
Man.
Culpa does get onto pit road. So Anderson and William White do take tires, and I'm very interested to see whether they pick up time over guys. I know Scott Crump will not take tires. My assumption would be that Tate Lytle and Matthew Weeks also don't take tires, and so if that's the case, do they come out ahead after the pit stop cycles through as Robin hops the curb, Owens drives through, able to navigate the traffic?
The one thing I'm noticing looking at timing and scoring here, to that point, a couple of guys in our top 5 on their last lap turned their fastest laps. Ethan Burrell at Tyler Fode, Nick Indelicato. It looks like technically Ryan Gable turned a 12:15.006 and his best lap is a 2:15.715. So it was quicker, but I feel like he must have gained an advantage to go that fast because it's not counting the lap.
Oh, there goes Vandermarl.
Thanks, Josh.
Got some air.
Those turtles reach out and bite you. So, yeah, a lot of our top 5 is running, equivalent laps to what they ran in qualifying, right? Fode ran a 2:14.8. He ran a 2:14.1 last time through. So
yeah, they're
actually quicker
than
qualifying.
They're speeding up, right? So I don't know what we'll see on lap 30, but certainly at this point, it does not appear the tires are hurting those guys at all.
Why don't we take a moment? I believe our regular producer, Mr. Dave Huck, has something for us here tonight.
Time to pay some bills, guys. I've been listening to you. I've been just sitting here back and having some snacks. So tonight you're watching. This is the Belly Up Sports Cup Series. Belly Up Sports is the internet sports bar, sports commentary via podcast forums.
Yeah, well, you can have the inside up here.
Ranging to nearly every sport. Not your usual sports site. Check them out on X or bellyupsports.com. Our race sponsor tonight is at Pit Pass NASCAR. At Pit Pass NASCAR is the newest podcast from Evergreen Podcast Network, bringing you everything NASCAR. From interviews to analysis, tune in now. Premier sponsors, Blue Egg Marketing. Blue Egg is the marketing department for small businesses. Small business owners, Blue Egg is your biggest fan. Constraints catalyze creativity. We help businesses punch above their weight class. And finally, Worldwide Technology Raceway. Worldwide Technology Raceway, also known as Gateway to some of us older people, is a motorsport racing facility in Madison, Illinois, just east of St. Louis, Missouri. Features a 1.25-mile track that hosts the NASCAR Cup Series, Craftsman Truck Series, and the NTT IndyCar Series. It also has a 2-mile infield road course used by Trans Am, SCCA, and Porsche Club of America, a quarter-mile NHRA drag strip that hosts the Midwest Nationals event, and the Kartplex, a state-of-the-art karting facility. That's our reads for tonight, guys.
Appreciate it, Dave.
So during that ad read, we did see Jordan Owens with a little slide there after some contact with the lapped car of Robert Hill. I'm sure he was thrilled about that. That is not a safe rejoin. I don't know if it's quite an unsafe rejoin in the eyes of race control, but I can assure you it is not a safe rejoin.
It's also tough, though. I mean, Robert's on the edge of the track, and the track bends back to the right. He needed to be way further off than he was. So here comes Seth Rawls. We did see Matthew Weeks come down pit road after Anderson and White. White is sitting in 17th. Weeks is 13th. Now 14th, I think. So I think overall it might not work out well. Actually, I think William White's going to be just ahead of Matthew Weeks. Yeah, just barely. So the difference there, 2 seconds or so from, or 5 seconds or so from White back to Weeks. I think that's about what it was before, but Weeks.
Oh, that's a lot of pit stalls.
So Seth Rawls going through too many?
It kind of looks like it did, but he probably didn't because how small the pit road or pit stalls are, like thin wise.
Are those we might get race control in here? Is that a penalty in this to run through too many pit stalls?
I believe it's.
Not sure that's.
I'm gonna stay quiet.
I don't know if that's a penalty in Elite.
I don't want any stitches.
Yes, actually. So the rule is 3 pit boxes in, 3 pit boxes out. Now, obviously, that's a judgment call, and there is leeway, but the rule is 3 in and 3 out, if that answers your gentleman's question.
Perfect.
So it certainly looks like our guys up front here are opting to run the tank dry or pretty close to it. Of course, I say that Chad Frankenfield pits, but it looks like for the most part, the guys at the very front are going to try and stretch this as far as they can. The numbers I've heard are somewhere in the 21 to 23 lap range, so you're probably looking at another 3 or 4 laps before.
You're welcome, honey boo boo.
Guys like Ethan Stanley, Ryan Gable are on pit road. But of course, I was hearing a lot of people say before the race they weren't going to be taking tires, and we're seeing a lot of guys take tires. So I don't know.
It looks like Chad is not taking tires. Yeah, no tires for the 15. So I think the no tire call is continuing.
Sorry, it's a goddamn.
Some of those guys back further in the field that maybe used up their stuff a little bit more. As here comes Jesse Racimas.
You're good, buddy. We made it work.
70 car.
Gotta love those monster colors on that 70 cars. Now we see, is that McIntosh?
Hi, McIntosh.
It is McIntosh on pit road.
I'm gonna toot my own horn just a touch. Is that Racimas qualified second for the 500, so we brought him to the booth, and I told him scheme looked great. I love the way that he trimmed out the monster car, and really, those real life monster cars, they're lacking that bright green trim that make that car stand out. And he said he was going to change it off the monster car, but I told him I liked it, and he has not changed it yet.
Here you see Chad Frankenfield closing in on Justin Fortner as Andrew Rucker is on pit road along with Harrison Talon.
I like an orange for a Sunny D car.
That's an interesting one. Silver Sunny D. Not sure. I'm a sucker for silver cars, but I'm not sure that one quite fits.
It screams more Capri Sun than Sunny D.
You know what? You're right.
Ryan Gable running in the second spot.
Just third place.
Ethan Burrell on pit road.
And yeah, if there's somebody who probably will not be taking tires, it's going to be this 37 car. These guys up here in speed, the top 5, I think they know what's up with the way that strategy is going to need to fall. Is you got to keep your tires as warm and heated as possible for the full 37 laps. And so I think Ethan Burrell will be one. Oh, well, Ethan took tires. Never mind. Just as I was saying it, that'll be interesting. Let's see, because I don't think either of the top 3 right now are going to take tires. is Burrell going to take tires and make that work?
Thank you.
We will definitely see how this plays out. Of course, you see Ethan Stanley there in the bottom section of the screen. Right now, 17 laps to go. I can't imagine it'll be too much longer.
A lot of light blue cars there. We just went through Stanley, Wadsworth, and Indelicato. Well, they're all the same color. Oh, Stanley's in the grass!
Oh!
That's your race leader.
Is this a 6-second error?
It was a huge. You see how much that gap did shrink down there. Big lockup down into turn number 12 for Ethan Stanley. We'll take another look at it.
That's the first error.
Hell of a thing there, Ethan.
Car. Maybe that's the first error we've seen from that 92 car in 3 races or something on these road courses. Effectively,
I think he was reacting to the Sunny D car in front of him.
Yeah, I think you're right. Very easy to do down that long straightaway with those hot tires. Get a little behind on the steering.
Yeah, Rucker definitely has a wiggle there.
Yeah, well, yeah, Rucker's extra slow, and Stanley got in a little too hot, and he's going to lose about half of his lead. Yeah, it's down to 3 seconds. Back to Gable.
Yeah, that last lap, 2:18.2 for Ethan Stanley, 2:14.3 for Ryan Gable. So effectively, that was about a 4-second chop right there.
Mm-hmm. Can't afford another one of those, but that's why Ethan Stanley built out the big lead that he did, right? And just in case anything happens, he has the speed, the pace to be able to go out there and get it. As we see Gavin Hibbs hitting pit road. Hibbs had worked himself into the top 10. He was really on it coming back through the field. That 95 car, pretty quick.
Yeah, it looks like we'll see where he settles out after this pit stop, but definitely a great job to salvage the night for Gavin Hibbs in that 95. We'll see what he can do over the second half of this race.
He's running out of spots to catch. He's going to need Weeks, Crump, Lytle, and White, I think, would be the guys remaining for Gavin Hibbs to go after. And there's a
Weeks,
pretty sizable gap from Nick and Delicato back to Tate Lytle. That is not Tate Lytle having pitted. That is literally a 25-second gap.
And that's the tricky part, especially in these road course races where we typically don't see cautions. I mean, anytime you have an issue that puts you in the back and you're so much faster, it's one thing to pass a bunch of cars early. It's another thing. Every car you pass makes the next car that much tougher to pass. But then on the road courses, when you have these huge gaps that get built up and rarely go away by virtue of caution, it really increases the degree of difficulty.
We do not have full course kilos on, and that that'll stop things up for the NASCAR Cup Series. But here in the Belly Up Cup Series, we're going to try to run these things full to the end, and that'll create these big gaps, and it kind of reduces the ability that these faster drivers can do. They can't fully take as much responsibility for as many cars as they can pass. You're gonna have to make up 25 seconds. That's just not doable into 37 laps, as Stanley, Fody, and Gable all hit pit road.
I wish I fucking hit this track.
We'll see what the strategy call here is.
I believe I know that this strategy is no tires.
We do not see the Jack lifting either of those cars up.
Fody's of the belief that right sides are useful, and I think that's why
Fody's taking 4. Yeah, I think Fody took all 4 tires there.
Interesting. Yeah,
he sure did.
So that's going to be a good gauge, right? We've got 3 teammates all right there. Nick and Delicato does take the race lead over, so Ethan Stanley will not go flag to flag Jeff Burton style.
We'll have to keep an eye on those. It really was negligible as far as the pit stop difference. Ryan Gable had a faster pit stop than Ethan Stanley by a fair margin. Not really sure what would cause that, but Stanley's and Fode's pit stops were basically the same. Have to wonder if maybe Gable took less fuel there, and if so, did he get enough fuel?
Yep, he's right on Stanley's back bumper too. Is Gable, and those guys are teammates. But we saw it last week at Homestead, or I guess 2 weeks ago at Homestead. Gable wants to win these races. He'll fight hard with his teammates for stage points for those race wins. And that 0-1 kart, give him a shot. He'll make it work.
This is about as close as anyone's been to Ethan Stanley tonight. We'll see if it pays off.
This is that right there. Oh, Robert.
He did a good job there of keeping the car rolling and not holding up Nick Massey there on pit entry, but that's not going to make him feel better about knocking the right front off the car on pit entry.
It's very Kyle Larson of him right there.
Delicado pit road.
And then the race leader will come down pit road, so only the one lap led. And Robert just too hot on pit road entry. Bonk.
Stanley had a lockup trying to stay in front of Gavel.
Yeah, Ethan is under fire right here.
So
for the
now,
race lead, so
there you see Ethan Stanley leading with 14 laps to go, and there is Ryan Gable. That is the battle for the lead now that the pit stops have cycled through. A little bit of a lockup there for Ryan as they make their way through turn number 1 and now through the S's.
Zach, I'm curious, when was the last time you saw a battle for the lead in a road course in the Elite Racing League here?
We had some good racing up front in the first half of Zandvoort in the Grand National Series, but in the Cup Series, it's
just go, dude.
It's been a little bit.
Worth noting, Nick and Delicado came out ahead of Tyler Fode. Fode took the time for those tires. They're now battling side by side here.
I don't know why you're wrong.
Approaching turn 12. Actually, no, they're approaching turn 10. And Burrell is just behind. So remember, Burrell was ahead of Fode, was ahead of Indelicado before, but Indelicado didn't take tires. Those two did, and now Indelicado is ahead, and he's got the warm tires. So that'll tell us whether tires are worth anything here, is whether the 40 and the 37 are able to clear the 10 and gap him the way they had him gapped before. But battle for the lead is still heating up.
I will say, Burrell turned a 2:13.6 last lap. That was his fastest lap of the race. It might be the fastest lap of the race. I'm not seeing anything faster.
Oh, Nick, no.
Oh, no.
Here comes Gable.
And Delicado went wide there.
Fode got that spot. Yeah, there's battling all over the top 5 right here. Gable's all over the back bumper of Stanley. Fode just took 3rd from Indelicado.
And Delicado's not going away without a fight, but boy, watching both of these battles right now, as you can see, every inch of the track and then some for the two guys up front, Ethan Stanley and Ryan Gable.
Stanley had a very interesting entry, and Gable wound up sideways trying to exit the corner right there. I hadn't seen anybody enter turn 20 quite like that. Gable almost Stanley almost looked sideways entering the corner, and then once he righted that car, he was able to gap Ryan Gable by a little bit on corner exit. He does it again right there, gaps Gable on corner exit, and every 10th he can pick up is a 10th he needs right now. Gable all over the back bumper of Stanley, who has not had to defend his position in a number of these road course races.
Oh boy. As we ride on board here with Ryan Gable, putting as much pressure as he can through the S's here on Ethan Stanley. Really hard to set up a pass, but you could definitely annoy somebody and try to get the run through here. I do think Ryan gave up just a little bit closing in there through turn 7 and 8. Lost a little bit of run down towards turn 12, but if you get a good run here, it can really set something up for you.
He did not. He got really, really sideways
I wasn't trying to make that crazier than it needed to be.
Back straightaway, and Stanley is going to pull away
a
little bit going into that turn 13 hard left-hander that Stanley screwed up before, right? I mean, he was off track and gave up a lot of that time before pit stops, and that's been a big reason as to why Gable is here in the first place. The better pit stop helps, but so did that 4-second gain down the back straightaway.
Delicado into fourth. Over Ethan Burrell.
You're seeing side by side Ethan Burrell, Nick, and Delicado. A little bit of contact there as they make their way towards turns 13 and 14. And Delicado's going to have the advantage here, but can Burrell hang tough?
See what Ethan has to think of that contact. A little bit back, a little bit of a shot in the rear. Hunting for him. 37 car. Stanley wide again down there in the battle for the lead, and Gable all over the back bumper of that 19 again on entry to the front straightaway. There might be a battle for the lead in turn 1.
Yeah, I think they are they're side by side here as they cross the start finish line. Ryan Gable's going to actually lead that lap, but he's definitely got his work. Oh no, lock up from Stanley.
Stanley locked up, but he was on the inside already. Gable's going to get the lead here on the back.
What a move around the outside for Ryan Gable to take the lead, but now can he keep it?
Ethan Stanley, his teammate here, and you see those rotors all glowing. Stanley locking up all the tires, and neither of these guys have fresh rubber. They did go fuel only, so those tires are hot, worn. And if there's a slight advantage towards Gable right now, I mean, Stanley is not gonna be able to gather it back up and take the lead back quite so easily. And I say that he's making a run at him down here to turn 12.
Yeah, he got a really good run there at the top of the hill. Not sure, couldn't quite. Oh, Gable hit the hop there.
Stanley had nowhere to go but into the back of Ryan Gable, and it shot him forward down the back straightaway.
Yeah, the curb almost helped Ryan there. Obviously, it killed his speed through the corner, but it just kind of threw him into the path of Ethan Stanley.
Here comes Stanley now down towards that left-hander turn 13. I think he's going to take the lead back right here. Ooh, no, he hit the curb too.
And Ryan's got to go way out, use all of the excessive track limits there, and get the run through the straightaway down to turns 13. And try to stretch out a lead. I'm very curious if he would have gotten a slowdown there, but maybe not.
All this fighting has given Tyler Fody about a second to cut into this battle for the lead, and Stanley's not done. He's going to find his way back to Ryan Gable. Gable's just going to have to drive 12 really good, really clean laps here to finish this race off.
What'll also be interesting to see as they cross the line this time with Ryan Gable in the lead, how much has that fighting hurt them on the stopwatch? Is a little bit of a slide there. You can see the tire marks left behind by Ryan Gable coming out of turn 20, but we'll see how much time Tyler Fody and Clean Air has been able to make up on these guys.
They actually lost some time back in the back portion of the racetrack as Gable hit the curb, and that gave Stanley a look. They're going to look at side by side through the S's. Stanley thinking better of it against his teammate, but Gable now definitely holding up the 92 car.
You've talked about a lot tonight, David. Sometimes it's a lot easier to be the rabbit, right? It's a lot easier to be the chaser, the pursuer, instead of the pursuee. You have that reference point. You have the what you're able to gauge by how the guy in front of you is running. Now that those roles have reversed, but man, stretched out a little bit of advantage there, Ryan Gable did. But
Stanley's strongest portion has definitely been the S's. And then that very back half of the track, I think right here is kind of Stanley's worst part of the track. And Burrell has closed in on Tyler Fody, and Delicado has not fallen out of this battle by any means. And that's a battle for third place in that podium position. Here comes Stanley to the inside once again, and Gable pulls to the outside and holds him off. He's got a really good line on that first corner after the big back straightaway. He kind of runs outside. Here comes Delicado.
That could have been
bad.
That could have been bad. Delicato able to keep that thing slow and not drift up into the 37 car.
Man, these guys just giving everything right now.
This is where Stanley is probably one of the better cars on track, right? He's able to keep that thing right on the bottom, and then on corner exit on these last two corners, Stanley really gets a good launch. And this is where he's able to make up the most time, but the time he got passed by Gable was the time he slipped up in this final corner 20. Now he'll try to get to the inside, but Gable able to get through there.
You're storing fun in this race for me right now.
Stanley will have to hold on a second once again. 10 laps to go.
10 laps to go here at Circuit of the Americas. And this battle for the lead is
I've been
as
bored
good as we've had in
laps.
a long time on a road course here in the Elite Cup Series.
That's not part of the track.
Watching on board from Ethan Stanley in the bottom portion of the screen. Don't sleep on that battle for third in the top half of the screen either. Tyler Foti, Ethan Burrell, Nick and Delicato.
I mean, the front five, under 2 blankets. 10 seconds apart, but still 2 blankets. Very, very close battling for the all the money and all the marbles in this one. And I mean, from our prior kind of talks, it seemed like Gable sideways.
Gable there out of 9. This guy gives Stanley a shot.
Here comes Stanley. He's gonna get underneath him, entering the hairpin.
A little bit of a hip check there, but I think they're gonna keep it all right.
I think Stanley was a little nice playing with a teammate there. He could have maybe gave him the door, but he didn't want to ruin Ryan's race either. They're teammates. They're both trying to win, but they're both trying to run for points.
Thanks, Nick.
Here he comes again.
Oh,
thanks,
man,
buddy.
Look at the ground he makes up under. Oh, they
both overdrove it.
Man. Ryan Gable staying out front, but this is a brawl if I've ever seen one.
This is I would say this is among the better road course races that I've seen, and all this battling, all this overdriving of the corners. Tyler Foti's now down under 9 seconds to get to the front two, and Burrell and Delicato are just following right along the heels of that 40 car, trying to catch up to this front lead.
Unfortunately for those guys, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, right? No matter how crazy this battle for the lead gets, their biggest opponent right now is time. Even at a second a lap, it would be a tough challenge to get back to these front 2 guys.
Depends on how crazy the racing gets between those two, I think.
Yeah, I think for them to really get into the mix, they need something drastic to happen with these top 2, and it might.
They certainly have been racing very hard, as Stanley is all over the back bumper of the 0-1. Checking back through the field, yeah.
And Gavin Hibbs has made his way into the top 10, and he's trying to find a way around Scott Crump for the 9th position.
And William White is right there a second ahead of them in 8th. So Hibbs' comeback certainly capable of getting up, I think, to that P8 spot, which would be very impressive given how his night started out.
Looks like Hibbs going to try, maybe probably had a crossover in mind there. Right now, well, I say that. I was going to say Ryan had opened up about a second on Ethan Stanley, but Ethan got a good run out of turn 11 down this backstretch here, and that's got to help him kind of get a little bit of that slipstream down into turn 12, and we know how treacherous this has been these last couple of laps.
About fucking time, man. Jeez.
About as clean as it's been from these two.
About as clean as it's been. And now back through... Oh, a little bit of squirrely there from Ryan Gable there, going through 13 and 14.
92 keeps dropping out. The connection's just not quite so stable for Ethan Stanley, and that's definitely not helping him any. Because I'm sure on his screen, either Gable keeps lagging or disappearing for him, or he's at least seeing that Q bar up in the top making some moves, and that might be somewhat distracting. The 92 just not quite as crisp as it was back when he was leading and pulling away from everybody. Ryan Gable has been able to open up 0.7 of a second, and he's continuing to kind of pull away from Ethan Stanley. Except for I think he might have overshot turn 1. Got Stanley back within half a second, but that's all.
One guy going wide there at turn 12. Cutlip going wide.
We've seen that all night long.
RC Enerson has worked his way up to the.
Don't think I didn't see your Code Brown moment, position. Robert.
Now we look at.
This whole thing's been a Code Brown.
Boy, Ethan Stanley got really close there. Oh, who we got around here? Is that
Kachow. That is Kachow. Lightning McQueen has not had the best day since the grid. This is as close as Stanley's been.
Here we go.
Alongside here.
And Gable's going to have to use that defensive outside line. He does it again, able to clear out and keep that 92 behind, but Stanley's going to have a good run on the outside. I just don't think this is a corner you can make a pass in.
No, it's really tough to hang tight there on the outside of turn 13, but a little bit of a lockup there going into 15.
Here comes Stanley. He's gonna have an opportunity on 19. I think that's where he's looking to set up right here.
Oh, look at these cars in front of him too. That might play a factor if they catch him in these couple of corners. If they get him on the straight, it'll be all right. But right here could be a problem going into 20.
This is Josh Clark and Andrew Rucker right in front of the leaders. And if you recall, Clark cost that 92 car a chance at the championship in that
coming the inside of both of you here, I hope.
Incidental contact, but it was contact with the lapped car. And now Gable's going to have to try to get underneath the two of these guys, and Stanley's going to have to try to follow him through.
Damn, I see him slow down.
The outside, but not a whole lot more going through turn 1. Not that they have to, but Ethan had
Rucker
to stay a little bit wide there. Yeah.
Took him offline.
It's always tough. Obviously, blue flag situation is strictly advisory. You don't have to pull over for the leaders. You don't have to completely throw away your race. And obviously, Andrew Rucker running his own race and his own battle there, but definitely a tough spot for the leaders as they were trying to get by.
Those two were running 24th and 25th. It's not like they were running last, right? I mean, that's a decently placed battle on track, and Clark just missed turn 12 there, so and ends that battle for the time being. But Stanley is still just unable to clear back past Ryan Gable, and Nick Delicato's coming after Tyler Fody there in 12 as well.
Yeah, and these guys are. I mean, now it's almost 12 seconds that they're behind the leaders. So they've lost a little bit of ground here. And now you see the battle for third, Nick and Delicato and Tyler Fody side by side on the run down to 12. What will happen here?
We've seen that outside lane in turn 12 or I guess it's turn 13, be very strong because Ethan Burrell just used that same lane Fody used and went right around the 10 car. Just went right straight around him.
And now they're going to be side by side going into 15.
Burrell hit the curb, and Delicato's going to have the run. And he's also got the preferred lane on the bottom, so I think he can put that 10 car back into 4th place.
Yeah, Ethan put up a good fight, but I think you're right. I think Nick and Delicato's going to have the run here as they go down towards 19 and 20. He actually got a really good run, all things considered. He's got to try and pressure Tyler Fody coming out of turn 20.
He is. They're going to be side by side going into 1. Oh, nope. Fody got a really good run out of 20. And Stanley has re-caught Gavel for about the 6th time here.
Defensive line for Tyler Fody going into turn 1.
But he gave Indelicato the run on the outside. They're door banging. And that's going to be Indelicato to third place. I think you got to defend the outside.
Yeah, I would have thought that would, I would have thought going to the inside might be the move. But you're right. We've seen, especially in turn 12, but even there in turn 1, being able to keep the RPMs up and roll around the outside really seems to be paying dividends for these guys.
Right. 12 is the left-hander after the back straightaway. 11 is the left-hander entering the back straightaway. I think I've been calling that incorrectly all night. So I apologize.
But we had an issue with Ethan Stanley.
Yeah, something's up with Ryan Gable's all over the track.
Go left here.
Stanley back to the lead. 6 laps to go, and there's a battle for third while we're on the instant replay.
Yeah, I'm just all over the fucking
Gable
place.
Enters high, and that car just never turned.
Yeah, that's a weird one. Hard to say. You didn't see any kind of brake lock up or anything like that. I don't know if he just missed the mark or what happened there.
There's a battle for third. Here's the replay.
Yeah, replay. Fode's going to get Indelicato here, and they're down at the end of this back straightaway at this point, and Burrell is hounding Indelicato for that 4th spot, but Indelicato's side by side with Fode right now, so Fode's got an outside lane. I think Fode's going to have the advantage still here as we approach 5 laps to go, but they are side by side through the double rights heading back towards turn 19. Delicato's going to have the advantage into turn 19, and he is going to clear Tyler Fode. Fode with a good run.
He'll go sideways.
Back after Indelicato, but we've seen the outside lane in turn 20 be the stronger lane, and Indelicato clears to third with 5 laps to go.
All right, we saw what happened the last time these guys were in turn 1. What will they do this time?
Indelicato running kind of that outside lane, and here comes Ethan Burrell dive to the bottom on Tyler Fode. He gets it done.
Oh, that was impressive right there. I think we were all expecting the crossover there from Tyler Fode. Ethan Burrell did give him a chance, made it stick, and powered out of turn 1 to stay in front of Fode for that 4th spot.
That was downright impressive from Ethan Burrell. Tyler Fode lost 2 spots in a lap right there, and he's not out of it. He'll have to work to get him back, but definitely a bit of a surprise. I think that one caught him off guard a little bit. Now Fode back to the back bumper of the 37 car. Stanley locked him up entering turn 11. I think Gable did too, and also a battle for 9th and 8th.
Oh, that's a sketchy spot there. You're saying, yeah, this is the battle for 8th in the top half of the screen. William White in the 43, Gavin Hibbs trying to run alongside Scott Crump.
Where are they? There they are.
They got singled out through the S's there.
Stanley sideways again. Gable is there. Gained half a second.
I mean, it's got to be 4 laps to go at the line this time, and that's still 12 miles, more than that, really, closer to 14 miles of racing. Plenty of time for this one to be decided with just a half second between those top 2.
They have Ryan Gable and Ethan Stanley kind of collectively have had a very persevering mindset today. Neither one of them has been willing to yield to the other. Those are 2 teammates. You wouldn't expect it when they're racing for the lead, but they've not let the other get away since the very beginning of the race. And I think that's downright impressive from Gable, who had fallen to 7 seconds off the race lead at the beginning of this one, and he's been able to persevere, even in spite of the mistakes that have been made from that 92 car, and then also the mistakes the 01 himself has made. Both of them have been able to fight back every time that they've made a mistake, and that's why they're battling for the lead 13 seconds ahead of Nick Indelicato.
The leaders work their way through the S's. We take a quick look there.
Oh, you betcha.
RC Enerson running in that 11th spot.
Justin Fortner is just chilling behind him, too. He is definitely within striking distance of RC.
Ryan Gable almost got a good little run there out of turn 9, but I think he clipped the grass just a little bit.
Also, thank you, Goody.
Kind of stalled him out ever so slightly.
Oh, you betcha too.
He's still close enough to make a run here, and Fode starting to kind of fall back. Don't count Chad Frankenfield out of the battle for the top 5. He is only a second and a half there behind Tyler Fode. So, he's certainly been gaining while those guys were dicing it up. But now Indelicato has kind of pulled away from Ethan Burrell a little bit, and Fode's kind of trying to have to play catch up here as Gable is just on the back bumper of that 92 car. Hasn't been able to make another move, but he's certainly not letting him drive away like he did at the beginning of the race.
No, these guys have pretty much been trading blows like heavyweight boxers here in the second half of the race. A little bit of wheel spin there for Ryan Gable coming out of turn 15.
Rucker
but doesn't lose too much time.
Ooh. Goosey goosey.
Gable definitely not as good as Stanley through that double right section approaching 19, but he does get a good run down towards turn 20, and let's see how they get down this front straightaway. 3 laps to go for Ethan Stanley. Definitely not the kind of relaxing, easy win that he has gotten in the past in these Elite Cup Series races.
They just both set their fastest lap of the race, or their own fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, Ethan Stanley ran a lap that was 0.2 off of his pole lap just now. On tires that are, 33 laps old?
33 laps old at this point, or 34 laps old, actually. So, yeah. Safe to say there's still plenty of fight left in those good years.
Yeah, and, we've talked about how to make racing better. You always want to have some tire wear and stuff, but these guys have been able to fight it out. It's very sports car-y. Is how these stock cars are these days. This gavel is right there.
Using every bit of racetrack there as they run down towards turn 11. He's got to look inside.
Here he comes.
I think Stanley's got to get the better run out of turn 11.
Gavel is so
White and Crumb made contact. That's going to give Gavin Hibbs a 9th spot.
Everything you have.
Now
I think White slid through turn 1 is what happened right there.
Oh, Stanley sideways.
Yep, that's going to open the door for Gable.
They're going to be side by side.
We've seen that outside line be able to power off of the corners.
Oh, Gable didn't give him a lot of room there. Gave him just
there
enough.
It is.
Back to the lead for Ryan Gable, but can he defend here in 15? Contact.
A little bit of a bumper.
He's able to drive away, though.
These two have been racing so hard all day long. Come down to this. It's going to be 2 laps to go when we get back. And every time we've seen one of these leaders get up here, since Stanley made that big mistake, those guys have struggled to keep the lead. And the chaser has been able to get there at some point. But it's taken a few laps just about every time. So, Stanley does not have time anymore, right? Only 2 laps to go.
2 laps to go at the line this time by. And make no mistake, these guys are giving it everything they've got. They might be teammates, but they have not pulled a single punch over this second half of the race.
Yeah, I expect nothing less from these two. I mean, they're going to run hard, but they're also, they've been very clean and very fair with each other. No contact made on any of those passes.
Catching some traffic here in the S's we see ahead of Ryan Gable from the perspective of Ethan Stanley. Looks like Michael Hosek and Ryan Schold, a couple of lead lap cars, ranked 21st and 22nd. Michael Hosek takes the exit ramp.
So does Schold. Both of those guys not interested in being a part of the battle for the win here. Gable just has opened it up second now ahead of Stanley. And Stanley, I think, just... I don't know. He hasn't been able to get out of some of these corners as well as he was before in the race. We're seeing Gable get those big runs down the long straights, and Stanley hasn't been able to acquire those again, where he was getting those big runs in that first run when he pulled out a 7-second lead.
But we've seen how often this corner has played a factor. How will they get through it this time?
Pretty smoothly. Only one more time through there.
Stanley did make up a little bit of time there, but overall, not bad.
He's really going to have about the second half of next lap to pass Ryan Gable back. That's going to have to be when it's done. Otherwise, you can start waving the checkered flag for Gable if Stanley can't figure out a way to get closer by this time next lap.
Yeah, the S's are going to be really important here on the final lap. You got to put yourself in position to try and make something happen. If the S's aren't there, it's going to be an uphill battle, no pun intended.
White flag coming out for Ryan Gable. And it's been a dogfight. And it will be only one more lap of dogfight before this one is settled. And Gable trying to break the draft of his teammate. Go down up to turn 1. Can't overslide the corner here. Can't give it up to turn 1. But
lock up.
But he did overdrive it. Adrenaline definitely pumping right now. I mean, a win gets you locked into the playoffs. And you could steal one from what is, currently the road course king and Ethan Stanley.
Oh, this would be a big win for Ryan Gable. One of those guys with multiple road course wins here in Elite, but it's been a while since anybody has been able to beat that 92 car. Going back up the hill.
Stanley just not able to get close right now. I mean, barring an error on Gable's part,
this
one's feeling pretty secure. Barring that or a bonsai move from the 92, but that teamwork there, I don't believe that will be in the toolbox of Ethan Stanley.
Justin Vandermarl bailing off to the left-hand side. Ethan Stanley grabs as much slipstream as he can from him on his way by.
He's not in striking distance, but a good corner here can maybe change this. Man, Gable loose!
Oh!
Here comes Stanley! I think that was it. I think that was the shot.
We'll see what happens over these final few corners, but I feel like that was Ethan Stanley's best shot. We see another lap car off to the left side. Make their way through 15.
Stanley had committed to driving in really deep to try and just get alongside. And had he driven that corner normally, I think he might have had a real opportunity to battle Stanley through battle Gable through these last couple corners. As it stands, Ryan Gable is going to be our winner here at COTA, with one more good corner.
One more time through turn 20. The 01 car of Ryan Gable is going to come to the start-finish line. The streak is over. Ryan Gable beats Ethan Stanley to pick up the win here at Circuit of the Americas into Pit Pass NASCAR 125.
Good run, Ryan.
Yep.
I certainly wasn't expecting that result. Nick Delicato is going to come home third. Awesome Ethan Morrell will come home fourth, and Tyler Fode finishes in fifth. Chad Frankenfield following.
I mean, it wasn't for the win, but that was actually
fun. We're going to have to wait a minute for the rest of these guys to come by. About 30 seconds until Tate Lytle crosses the start-finish line.
We might have a little battle here for...
I was watching the relative to all of us were staying within about 17 seconds of the leader. It wasn't really after the pit stop. They didn't really get pulled away at all.
It's going to be White and Crump, but William White's P9, Scott Crump's going to be P10. I think Scott will tell you he'd take that. He's also going to finish just ahead of R.C. Anderson is Scott Crump.